This is the best kept secret to have your vocals sit in perfect harmony alongside your instrumental. So far in my career, I have worked with incredible producers and mixers that have insane credits, such as One Direction, Dave, Stormzy, Lewis Capaldi, and so many more. All of these experiences have taught me priceless skills and techniques that the pros actually use. And now it's time to share those with you, with the absolute best secret at the end of the video. There's so many secrets here that you won't find in many other places. It's the ultimate crash course for beginners and more experienced creators alike. This is making magic. For this first episode, I wanted to focus on the subject that for me was the hardest to get to a professional standard, and that's vocals. Producing, editing, and mixing vocals can be an extremely difficult and long process, but it doesn't have to be. So for this video, I've taken all the times I've had light bulb moments when either working with other people or just learning as I go, and compiled them into one video to help you achieve the perfect vocal. There's so many techniques here, and some of them you may not have heard of, but please don't be scared, as I promise you I will go through everything. My goal is to make it so that you could show your mum this video and she could mix your next vocal for you. I'm going to split this video up into 3 sections: recording, editing, and mixing. There'll be chapters below with all the different bits within each section, so feel free to skip ahead or miss certain bits if you know things already. I know I'll have something in here that you don't know yet. So the best place to start is the source. A saying you'll be hearing a lot from me is you have to get it right at the source, and this could not be more true. If I had the choice between using a fully mixed vocal that had been recorded poorly and a completely raw vocal that had been recorded professionally, I'm going with the raw vocal. Seriously. Make sure you're limiting the reflections in your room as much as you can to get the blankest canvas to build your vocal upon and deliver the best performance you can. Now, I bet you're probably thinking, oh, I bet he's got loads of soundproofing, loads of foam, I bet he's got a chaotic eyeball as well. I really don't. I have a couple of foam panels and some red foam ball that I cut out myself to put my mic inside, and that's literally it. If you want a tutorial on the foam ball, let me know. But that's all you really need if you're on a budget. And if that's still not enough, then I have a cheeky plugin hack for you later on in the video. Next up, we're going to edit the vocal ready for mixing. The main things you need to consider are pitch correction, unwanted artifacts, and repairs. I like to do it in this order as well, as pitch correction can sometimes cause phasing issues, which we can fix later on. Now, just before we pitch correct, I promised you a plugin hack, and I'm going to show you that now. This plugin removes any noise and room reverb using AI. This is not a sponsor video, but I just had to show you this plugin. As combined with a bit of treatment in your room, like we said earlier, you can make your vocal sound completely dead. You won't lose its natural sound, and it will be a great foundation to build upon. Simply take down the ambience knob and the voice reverb knob, leaving just the voice, and you're good to go.
There's not much that I can say to stop the pain from rushing in.
Bear in mind that this plugin will only work if you have some level of treatment. Like, it's not going to work in your kitchen, but it will work if you have a little bit of treatment, got a decent foundation. This plugin will get rid of everything else that's in excess. So once you've got your vocal recorded and treated in that sense, let's move on to pitch correction, preferably in Melodyne. If you don't have Melodyne, that's fine. I'm going to be focusing on Melodyne for this video as it's what I use, and I personally think it's the best one out there. This next tip is one of my favorites in the video and one of the biggest light bulb moments I've had so far. If you're in Melodyne, avoid adjusting the vibrato. Please just adjust the pitch drift. It completely keeps that natural sound in your vocal while getting you the perfect pitch.
There's not much that I can say to stop the pain from rushing in. There's not much that I can say to stop the pain from rushing in.
Okay, now that we've finished pitch correcting, let's bring our vocal into RX. Again, none of these plugins or softwares are sponsored. I just think they're the best out there, and they're the best way to achieve the best vocal you can get. So RX is fantastic. There's so many things you can do, and I'm happy to cover all of those things in a separate video, but for now we're just going to focus on the main 3 things that I like to use, and that's mouth declick, decrackle, and of course phase rotation, as we mentioned earlier. Use the suggest button on phase rotation to automatically put your vocal back into phase. It's so easy. Once we're done in RX, let's export our vocal and bring it back into our DAW ready for mixing. Now, sorry if some of this has been a little bit boring so far, but trust me, it's important. It's going to make it so much easier to mix this vocal now that we've got the best foundation that we could have had. We got it right at the source. Hey, so let's get started. Now, the philosophy I like to adapt when creating a vocal chain is always take away before you add. This is because you want to accentuate the great bits of your vocal, but keep down the not so great bits of your vocal. So starting with the taking away, it's basically up to you in which order you do these, but I personally like to start with de-essing, then move to subtractive EQ, and then finish with compression. So starting with de-essing, there are 2 ways to do this. You can do it manually or you can do it with a plugin. I think everybody watching this video will know how to use a de-esser plugin, so I'm just just going to quickly go over manual de-essing. The easiest way to do this is to use your DAW's automation feature and just bring down the sibilance at the start of each of your words in your vocal.
There's not much that I can say to stop it. There's not much that I can say to stop it.
You can also use this automation technique to manage the breaths in your vocal as well, so that compression doesn't bring them back up later on and make them really loud.
Pay for rushing in, pay for rushing in.
Next up is Subtractive EQ. Now there's only a few things I really like to do here, but they're really important. First off is a high pass filter. Go to where you think is about right. You don't want to be taking out really any of the super low notes of the vocal. Then I like to EQ the fundamental. Now the fundamental is the lowest note in a voice. Now usually this sits around, well for me, it personally sits around 80 to 90 hertz, but it can go all the way up to like 200, 300 hertz for a female vocal. If you can attenuate it dynamically, that's even better. If not, that's fine. Just maybe bring it down by a couple if it's too loud or if it's too much. Next, I like to reduce problem frequencies. If there isn't any problem frequencies, don't take anything out. Don't think you have to EQ. You don't have to do anything if it doesn't need it. You can literally leave your vocal dry if you love the sound of it. All of these things are just if you have to do them, if you feel like you need to do them. You don't have to take anything out. But if you do, listen for those problem frequencies and attenuate them. The last thing I like to do is just make sure the overall frequency spectrum of my vocal is relatively balanced in the style that I would like it in. Maybe use some wide Q bell EQs just to bring up certain parts of the frequency spectrum just so you can have that balanced sound. Next up is compression. My favorite. Now, compression is a massive subject and there's no way I'm going to go over everything in this video. It would take me hours. But I am going to tell you the best tip I've ever got when it comes to compression. Do not be scared of it. I'll explain a bit more later, but the 3 compression techniques we're going to go over today are parallel, serial, and multi-band compression. If you don't know what these are, that's absolutely fine. I'm about to explain them. So in this vocal chain we're creating, the first compressor we're going to whack on, we're going to call the squash compressor. I'm going to use the LA2A, but you can use any compressor you like. Now this is what I mean by don't be scared. You can get up to 8, maybe even 10 dB of gain reduction here because you want that vocal to be consistently balanced without completely getting rid of all of the dynamics. You want it to feel balanced across the board. This is one of the best things and most important things you can do to your vocal to help it sit properly in the mix. Now we're going to add another compressor in our chain. So we've ticked off serial compression too. All that means is having your vocal run through more than one compressor. And this next compressor we're going to add is a multi-band compressor. So that's another one ticked off. I'm using the FabFilter Pro MB here, but you can use any multi-band compressor you like. The best tip I've picked up when it comes to multi-band compression is to split your compressor into 4 bands and use each band to attenuate the different parts of your vocal. The bottom band we're using to attenuate the fundamental and any other low frequencies in the vocal. The low mid band is to attenuate boxiness. The high mid band is to attenuate presence, and the top band is to attenuate sibilance and air. The best way to do this is have your lower bands active when your singer is singing low. So for example, when your singer's belting out a super high note, you don't want the lowest band to be compressing because there's not really any information in that frequency area. Whereas when he's singing a super low note, that's when you want the compressor active. This is one of the best ways to get a balanced vocal. I honestly love multi-band compression and I wish everyone would use it.
There's not much that I can say to stop the pain from rushing in.
Now with the Pro MB, we can also adjust the mix of our compressor, which is called parallel compression. What this essentially means is blending the dry signal with the wet compressed signal. And that's all 3 covered. So now that we've done all of the taking away and controlling the vocal, we can now move on to the fun bit, which is accentuating the best bits. The main 3 techniques I like to use here are saturation, harmonic excitement, and of course, spatial effects. Beginning with saturation, what we're doing is bringing up the harmonics in the vocal, making it sound fuller, punchier, and more musical. I love the Decapitator by Sound Toys, but you can use any saturator you like. Make sure you include a low cut if you can, so that the muddy area of your vocal doesn't get more muddy. Followed by that, I'm going to add some harmonic excitement using the free plugin Fresh Air by Slate Digital. If you don't have this plugin, what are you doing? Get it right now. It's free and it's amazing. A tip though, do not get carried away with this plugin, as it's very easy to make your vocal sound super bright. You might think it sounds good in the moment, but trust me, it's not going to translate. Now for this vocal chain, I love adding a bit of Soothe 2 at the end just to control the whole frequency spectrum.
I can't even start to wonder all that you'll be feeling now.
Now for my favorite bit. Effects. Reverb, very much like compression, is a massive subject, and I'm certainly not qualified to tell you everything about it. But I can give you my two favorite tips. First up is sculpting your reverb. I cannot stress how important this is. It's often overlooked among beginner mixers, but it is crucial to getting your reverb sounding natural and sitting within the mix. I'm going to use Valhalla Vintage Verb for this, and I love how simple the EQ filter is because all you need is a low cut and a high cut. The thing I like to do most is high pass to around 5 to 600 Hertz and low pass to around 1.5 to 3K. This way, the reverb isn't active on any of the muddiness at the bottom of your vocal or any of the harsh presence and sibilance at the top of your vocal. This is all personal preference. This is just how I love my reverbs to sound. If you want that high end, great. If you want that low end, great.
All that I can do is love you like I know she always did.
Now that we've got our reverb sculpted, it's time for my second favorite tip of the video. This one trick will get your reverb sitting perfectly alongside your vocal literally every time. And it's so easy. Just grab a compressor, whack it under that reverb bus, sidechain it back to your vocal, adjust the ratio to about 10:1, have a fast attack and a fast release, and adjust the threshold until you're compressing the signal by about 10 dB. Now what this is doing is making the reverb super quiet while your vocal is active, allowing it to shine and be super loud and fill the space when your vocal is inactive, giving the effect of a massive reverb without overcrowding and over muddying your vocal.
All that I can do is love you like I know she always did.
Now, I'm not going to go too much into detail on other effects, but the ones that I often like to use are a shorter room reverb, the long plate reverb that we've just been mentioning, slapback delay, a quarter note delay if it needs it, and space echo if it needs it. I can't tell you the perfect settings for all of these effects because they don't exist. You just have to use them and adjust them to taste until you're happy with how they're sounding. We've come to the end of the video. If you're still here, thank you so much for listening to me ramble on. That was a lot of information. And to reward you for staying this long, I would love to share with you my #1 vocal mixing tip. This is the best kept secret to have your vocal sit in perfect harmony alongside your instrumental. First of all, send all of your vocal tracks to a new bus. We'll call this vocal bus. Shocker. Next, send your vocal bus to another bus and set the mode to pre-fader. Set this fader to 0 dB so the signal is coming through as it was to begin with. And change the output of this new bus to no output. We'll call this new bus Ghost Vocal Bus, as it contains the signal of the vocal bus without us being able to hear it. And this is really important. Next, send all of your instrument tracks to a new bus and call it Instrument Bus. Wow, it's like we're naming them after themselves. Whack an instance of Soothe on this instrument bus and sidechain it to your Ghost vocal bus. Very important, use your Ghost one. Make sure Soothe's in flat start, turn on sidechain and just adjust the depth until you're getting about 3 dB of attenuation on all the resonances. Now what this is doing is reducing the parts in the instrumental frequency range that are clashing with the vocal and masking it, allowing it to not shine through. And this is amazing because you don't have to have your vocal too loud to hear every part of it. You can have it sitting perfectly alongside the instrumental volume-wise because we're reducing the resonances of the instrumental that are getting in the way of the vocal. It's like magic.
Much that I can say to stop the pain from rushing in.
And I think that just about does it for this video. You absolutely don't have to use every single tip I suggested, but try and use the ones that you feel could improve your tracks. Hopefully I can help you take your mixing and your production to the next level.
There's not much that I can say to stop the pain from rushing in. All that I can do is love you like I know she always did.
If you have enjoyed this video, I would be honoured to make this an ongoing series, diving into lots of different parts of music production and mixing, sharing all of the tips and tricks and techniques I've learned so far. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you're new, and I am an artist first and foremost, so I'll link my stuff in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Thanks so much for sticking around, and I'll see you next time.